on over to dtmerch.com. Show some love to us by getting that merch that we have available for you. Check us out. Double Toasted live in Atlanta. That's going to be September 2nd for a night of comedy games and the after party that we have going on for you. That's going to be at the Marietta's new theater in the square.
Tonight's review is going to be The Haunted Mansion, which I saw last week with Corey at a bizarre screening because it was for a critics. It was only for critics. Mm-hmm. There was less than 10 people in the room.
Okay.
Which I've never seen for one of those critic screenings.
Okay. Well, do you remember where it was located?
It was at an AMC theater, I think.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't, maybe Cinemark. That might have been what it is. I'm so new to this. I would have to look it up. But it was, I forget, it might have been the theater where we saw Spider-Man on the other side of that one.
I don't remember.
It doesn't even really matter. But it seemed like for your screening that there were a lot more people there tonight.
Yeah.
So let's get into it and let's see what this Haunted Mansion is all about. But first, let's watch the trailer real quick.
Amen.
I do like surprises.
Is anybody else seeing this?
I hope you do too.
Man, you know, going into this, one of the reasons why Corey asked me to go see this was because I was like, man, this looks great. You know, like an Evil Dead for kids sort of thing. So just to give you guys a quick rundown of what this plot is about. So Lakeith Stanfield plays Ben, a former scientist turned tour guide who gets hired by Gabby, a single mother played by Rosario Dawson, who just came in possession of this mansion that seems a bit more haunted than she expected. She also hires a priest played by Owen Wilson, a psychic played by Tiffany Haddish, and a historian played by the one and only Danny DeVito. Can this team come together and save her purchase, or is the mansion haunted forever? So, tell me, have you ever been on the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney World?
I have, but it was a long, long time ago.
And you know what's funny? It's still the same exact thing. I bet you that they had, you know, Lakeith Stanfield wax dolls and Danny DeVito wax dolls just ready to chuck them in there. But you know, starting out with the positive about this, because there is some positive, I think, to mention about this. I really thought that for the most part, across the board, I think that the costumes and the just the set design overall, super accurate to the ride, and you can see there's a lot of passion there. And the cast, who doesn't love that cast? Totally stacked.
Yeah, there's a stacked cast.
Yeah, but for me, that's really like all the real positive I have to say about this. For the most part, I was pretty disappointed by this movie. Yeah, everything that I expected from the trailer, it was all there, but seeing it in the movie. It all felt like it was there, decided like way before as like a corporate decision to be in the trailer to let you think that the movie was going to go a certain way.
Interesting. Because when I watched the trailer, I thought, oh, they're not even going to show this to us because it looks like something that should be streaming on Disney Plus. Why it's just even in the theater. So I was pleasantly pleased and surprised by the movie that I got.
Really?
Yeah. I'm almost the opposite of you, where I was like, you know what? I came in with low expectations, and considering the last Haunted Mansion movie and the fact that this is based on a ride, I'm not expecting this to be a good time, even though other people were. But I was like, you know what? They actually did care about this. There's the good work. Now, here's a thing I'm going to say that everybody's going to be opposite on. I felt like Lakeith Stanfield, who is headlining this and is the leading man, was miscast.
Really? You know why I think they casted old Lakeith Stanfield? It's It's because he's got a little bit of a Jack Sparrow feel to him. You know what I mean? Like, just putting them side by side. I'm just talking looking at them.
Okay.
That was the only thing that I could understand why they would put him in the movie.
Well, I kind of get the appeal of Lakeith Stanfield because everybody's on the like, I love that guy. I love that guy. He's got a unique look. Mm-hmm. And from what we've seen, most of him, like say with Atlanta, he's got kind of a quirky aloofness.
High.
Well, high, yeah. Yeah, but it's always like he gets to be the character who says things that are random where you just go like, man, that guy's in his own world while he's here. So it makes him intriguing.
Yeah.
And I think he was great in The Black Messiah. But he is separate from everybody else because he's playing Judas in The Black Messiah because he's playing the Judas. So he can never really connect with anybody. But here, where he's interacting with people, I was like, man, this is a role for a leading man who actually has more of a physical comedy chops, who's really done this and knows when to exaggerate or go with it. And he's good for the scenes where he's got to, have grief and all, show his grief. But everywhere else, I was like, he's just missing that oomph. There's a certain thing, like some actors are good, but then there's actors who take it a step above where they can be handed a script that's mediocre, but they know how to interject something into it that makes it more than what's on the page.
Maybe there will be a little bit where we can kind of agree on this, because although I said that I'm not too hype on the movie, I think that there was like glimmers of moments where they had like really great ideas in there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that the cast is one of those great ideas. And like to touch on what you were saying about Lakeith Stanfield, I think the key word is random. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you felt that at all.
I did.
Okay, I'm glad because I was going to feel crazy otherwise.
No. I got some of that. There's a certain randomness in what's going on. Now, I know when you put a movie like this together, you got to have a bunch of set pieces. And man, it'd be great if there was one person with a vision who knew how to do it all, but it's just not going to be that. But it did it a little bit more than I expected. There's just so many places I expected something like this to go wrong, and it didn't. Now, for sure, the script needed a punch-up.
Absolutely.
Because
there's a lot of
jokes that, I won't say they fall flat, but they just come in right about here. And yet, every so often, I wasn't expecting it, some joke would make me laugh out loud. Yeah,
I noticed that too, where some of the cast interacting with the set was kind of funny. And I felt like some of those moments weren't able to breathe because they weren't framed quite right, And it was showing some promise. Like on paper, there's good stuff there, but the way that they executed it, it did not work.
It would just be certain things. Like I remember there's a point where you have the very serious moment, and then Danny DeVito makes a comment about Lakeith Stanfield's wife. And I cracked up so hard because I was just like, oh my God, somebody said it. But just every so often they would catch me with that. And I was like, you know what? I knew that by the time I got to the end, they're going to have to do the big special effects light show. But leading up to that, I was like, I should be hating this. And early on, I had my arms folded, but I was like, you know what? It is a fun movie. And you have to remember that, it is for, I won't say for kids, but certainly for families that include small kids who may ride this ride. And they made it as scary as they could within those parameters.
Yeah, there is definitely stuff in here. Let me pull the trailer back up. There's definitely some stuff in there where if you are familiar with the ride, you'll get a kick out of it. I mean, right here.
I talk to people who ride it all the time.
Oh,
and they couldn't get over how they were geeked out about how much from the ride is in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things is like this right here. Oh, start playing, but like that right there, that's that's like the seat for the ride. So I thought that was kind of cute, and the movie has a lot of stuff like that is neat. Like this has a lot of Easter eggs in it, down to the point of like, have you ever heard of hidden Mickeys?
No.
So that's a thing that they do in Disneyland where they will just shove that mouse in every corner. And I know that when you go on the Haunted Mansion ride, I don't have it here, but there's like a table where if you look at it, the dinner plates are organized to look like that Mickey Mouse.
Interesting.
And I noticed in this movie, they show at the very end when they show that table, you can see there's some pumpkins that may be organized in a Mickey Mouse head.
Okay.
But that's what I thought was really the problem with this, is that it feels like someone was like, all right, we're doing Pirates of the Caribbean, but with the Haunted Mansion. I want a team, and we need to have all these, blockbuster names, and we need to have this moment, that moment. And all of it is computer generated. There is very little practical stuff in this. And I think that that's the detriment of the film.
Well,
I mean, ghosts, I get it. Those have to be CG.
yeah, but I don't know. Like, at this point, you're not seeing. You got to go to Spielberg or Christopher Nolan if you want practical effects. This is a Disney property based on a ride. Like, if there was ever a movie that was going to use CG, it's going to be this one.
True, but like I would have wanted like a Sam Raimi or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like you want to go crazy with it. How about Jordan Peele? I mean, I don't think he has time for this.
Yeah, I couldn't. It's funny that because that did cross my mind, but I couldn't see him signing on to do something like this when he could be doing something.
His script rewrite would have been intense, and I think he would have cut characters.
Yeah, and even Sam Raimi would be like, "Well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to hold back as much as you want me to hold back."
And I think it speaks to what we were talking about earlier that would have been a benefit for this. I think that doing it all on a smaller scale would have been better. It's just the mansion is so big. There's so many bullet points that they got to hit that it spreads itself so thin.
Okay, so we're almost there. We're getting there because on one, it's Disney's Haunted Mansion. I expect them to go big. I think they did the right thing. But on the side where I'm coming with you, it does spread itself thin, and that's what keeps it from being that. Oh, that was so much fun! I can't wait to come back and see it again. Because it's spread out. There's a lot going on, and sometimes they come, with all these characters. Sometimes they come back to one of the storylines, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that was a thing in this.
There is a lot of that, and there's some stuff where it's like, why does that look the way it is? I couldn't understand, and I wanted to get with it, but like the biggest laugh for me was laughing when they were like, I was laughing at the movie because they were just eating Burger King for like no reason. I was like,
product placement, baby.
I guess so.
I noticed that too. They whipped out that Burger King wrapper and made sure you could clearly see it was Burger King. And when they played with toys, they were all Marvel toys.
Yeah. So was that kid playing with a Black Panther?
Yes, he was.
So, and what were the other ones? I couldn't tell.
I think Storm was in there.
First appearance of X-Men in a Disney movie. You heard it here first.
And Namor.
Okay.
Submariner. Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple cast members that I didn't mention. They got what's her name, Jamie Lee Curtis as the old crystal ball. Mm-hmm. This is what the crystal ball looks like on the ride. It's a pretty neat effect.
Okay.
And in the movie, this is what she looked like.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought that was a pretty good effect.
Yeah, it was.
Like
I couldn't even tell it was her at first.
Yeah, I think that there's some interesting stuff that they do with they pull. Again, I think some of the biggest successes in this movie are all like the people who worked on it. Mm-hmm. Like the costumes and the set designers. They knocked it out, but they did their job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, did Jamie Lee Curtis's character look familiar at all? Like her outfit?
She looked like something from Big Trouble in Little China.
I didn't even think of that. But what I was thinking during the movie when she showed up, I was like, look at Jamie Lee Curtis looking like Amadeus.
Oh.
That's all I could think. And if you're wondering why I'm saying Amadeus, and this is not a spoiler, this is something that they talked about in all these publications, this is what she looked like, which is like, all right, that's interesting. Like there's someone who had a neat idea, but at the same time, all I thought was this.
Okay.
Again, maybe that's just me. I think the special effects, although they weren't the best I've ever seen, I think that they were pretty consistent across the board.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's anything else.
No. Like I said, all things considered, what it is, what it's supposed to be, I thought it was more successful than not. And it's not a movie that I would, probably never watch again. But it was enjoyable for the time I sat there, or at least mostly. There were times I was just kind of like, all right, come on.
The movie is 2 hours, and it didn't need to be that long.
No, that was shocking that it was 2 hours. I was like, this is an hour and a half story. What are we doing?
That's part of what I meant by that some of this movie really felt like a lot of corporate decisions where it's like, we need to have this. We need to have this character, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that overall that holds the movie back at the end of the day.
Now, one place I will agree with you on the CG where it was too much was the big reveal of the villain in the last and the big climax.
The villain let me pull him up.
Because with him, it was like, all right, the rest of this looks fine, but him here, that was one of those, you could have gone practical. Would have been much better.
Yeah, I didn't think that Jared Leto even showed up on set, to be honest. I think that it was all just an effect and they used his voice. This is what he looked like in the ride. This is an artist's interpretation of Jared Leto in the role. And I thought that this would be a fun image to use, but that's how he looked like on the ride. I don't have exactly an image pulled up of what he looked like in the movie, but if you rewatch the trailer, you can see him in there.
Yeah.
It's just fine. If there's anything else you want to mention, feel free to mention it. But if you're ready to give your rating, please
I'm ready to give my rating. As far as effects and costumes go, I thought everything was fine, other than the really terrible wig that Rosario Dawson wears through most of the movie. I'm just so like, why? And the way her and her son is dressed led me to believe a twist that was not actually there, which is probably for the better. But like I said, it's an enjoyable. It's one of those movies like, hey man, if you were excited to see it, then go. If you like the ride, it's fun. It's not great, and you can see how it could have been great and didn't make it. But it is head and shoulders above the Eddie Murphy version of it. So if you're worried about it being like that, don't. It's much better. But for me, it was kind of like it was kind of a low matinee.
All right. I think that we're almost there. There were parts of this movie where I was like, wow, I can see why some people weren't looking forward to this. But overall, it's interesting to see the ideas on screen, the way that they do them. And although the execution, like I said, it didn't hit perfectly for me, I was expecting, like I said, Evil Dead for kids. And I got, a pretty middle of the road movie based on a ride that is pretty great and pretty memorable. But again, I want to just emphasize, I really liked a lot of the ideas. And I think that on paper, this movie totally works, but I would have to give it probably a low rental, as low as a rental can go for me.
Well, the thing is, like, you were looking for Evil Dead, but I think this is more like The Haunting meets The Frighteners.
Okay,
like if you see
movies I haven't even seen.
Okay, so if you saw The Frighteners, this is much closer to that.
Okay.